Hey, what's up, party people? It's your man, Fernando G, once again with another edition of DJ to DJ. And again, it is always an honor to have an amazing talent. And today we're going out to New Jersey with my boy, Jason Jani. How you doing, brother?
What is good? It's good to be here, man. I appreciate you reaching out and getting me involved in the podcast. And I'm pumped to chop it up with you for a bit.
Sweet, man. Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. Now, I know you are a busy man because you got all kinds of projects that you're working on. So we're going to make it as brief as possible so you can get back to your routine. But what do you say we take a trip down memory lane and let's get to discovering how Jason discovered the art of DJing. When was the first time that you actually saw turntables and what happened?
I don't know if I want to talk about the year at this point because those are they're just numbers at this point. But I have to say, when I discovered music, I would say as a whole, I discovered music at an early age, and music was always a big part of my family, kind of like life at home. Mm-hmm. But when I discovered that DJing was something more than just someone playing records was probably when I was about 18 and I was kind of in my last year of high school, and I went to my first teen club, and I just was in awe of how the DJ could essentially control the room. And I'm not a control freak. I was fascinated by how that one person in a DJ booth had the ability of literally creating the atmosphere and the vibe for the hundreds of people that were at this club that I was at that day. And, it just became something I was interested in, fascinated by, and then soon to become an obsession for me. And man, it was a long road to kind of get my first set of turntables because, I come from a very modest and very, very humble background. And I had to kind of do a lot to get my first set of Technique 1200s. And I actually drove on I took a train to New York City, which is about an hour train ride from where I lived growing up. And I remember I got my girlfriend, one friend, and I went up. We went to Canal Street and right outside of Chinatown. And it used to be loaded with all like electronic stores. And I remember I walked up to this one and they had a Technique 1200 in the window. And I'm like, that's my turntable. This is my place. I'm buying it from here. I bought two 1200 turntables and a Gemini mixer. And I didn't even have a cart. And I had to walk about a mile to get back to the path, to get back to the train, and then take an hour and a half train home. It was such an endeavor to get my first set of turntables. Let me tell you, that's when I think I first realized how heavy turntables really are.
Right. Man, no, back in the day, man, every DJ that I've talked to, we always talk about how our backs are all messed up now thanks to having to haul all those heavy ass speakers and amp racks and turntables, milk crates filled with records. Man, we're all screwed up because of that.
It's come. Think about how far it's come in the past, 20 years. There was a time when I would go and play a club for an entire night, and I would have 2 crates of records with me. That's all I needed. Like I literally knew that was my library, or maybe if it was like a residency where I got to dive a little deeper or play a little bit longer, maybe 4 crates of records total, and you knew the 400 tracks you had with you and you weren't capable of playing. Like, it wasn't like, hey, could you get this track? Hey, could you do this? It was like, you knew where they were. You knew how many beats per minute each track was. You knew exactly everything was. And man, it's come a long way.
That's wild, man. And what was it like do you remember what your first actual event was where you DJ'd and showcased yourself?
So I know of my first or second. I think it was my second event. So I was fascinated by it, and I would literally work just to afford records. And I got an opportunity to do my younger sister's Sweet 16. And my family very close, so like it was cool to be able to do it. But my parents were like, "Hey, if you're a DJ, we need a DJ, and your sister needs a DJ. So, can you do it? And I'm like, yeah, I think I can do it, you know. And then I like realized like I was playing like melodic house and like trance records and like hip hop kind of stuff. I wasn't like a pop Sweet 16 style DJ, but um, I kind of did what I had to do to grab what I needed to do. That was my first like on my own event. I did work with another company before that for a little bit, learning kind of the ropes of the mobile world.
Hmm.
To be candid with you, though, it was a short lived stay for me because the owner of that company was into a lot of things that I just didn't really agree with. He was into like drugs and gambling and
Oh
just
wow.
getting hammered, and he would make a ton of money and then basically like throw it all away. And at first, I thought it was okay. Not that I agreed with what he was doing, but I didn't think it would like bother me. And after working with him for a little bit of time, I realized like, yo, I got to get away from this dude because he's going to get me in trouble somehow, some way. It's going to end up not a good story for me.
Yeah.
So
Well, you definitely made the right decision. You definitely made the right decision. So I discovered you at Mobile Beat back in, I believe it was 2017 was my first year
okay,
that I went in there. And I got to tell you, man, here's a funny story. I always like looking for remixes and redrums of songs that pretty much give you a modern twist to it, but still keep the essence of the original track. And there was one song that I wanted forever, which was Van Halen's Jump. And I could not find a good version, remix version, if my life depended on it. I went to every record pool. I went to I searched up and down. I could not find anything. So my first year to Mobile Beat, I show up and they announce you, Jason Jani, boom, and you start spinning. And I think it was something like your fourth or fifth mix. Boom, and you come in with this massively just freaking awesome version of Van Halen's Jump. And I'm all like, oh, my heart sank and I go, that's the man. That's the man. I go, where the hell did he get that and stuff? And I was like, oh my gosh. And dude, you just ripped it up. I mean, the entire room was just going insane. And your DJ skill was just freaking flawless. The versions of the remixes that you were playing were just freaking awesome because I loved it because again you weren't getting into like these really hardcore trancey, underground type remixes. You had really good stuff that you could mix in and out of, but you could still use at a wedding and not just at a nightclub. So that was my introduction to you, man. So that was freaking awesome.
it's funny you say that because I did a Twitch session with a friend of mine, Joe Bunn, last week for his learning project called The Vault, and I did a Twitch stream, and there was like 700 or 800 people on the stream, and people were like, "Yo, but you can't play this at weddings or private events." And like my team from SCE was on the thread, and they're like, "No, no, this is like what Jason does. Like no matter where he goes, this is his style." And like people were kind of blown away by that. But I'm an edit creator for one, and two, I think it's super important that you hold uh, the original integrity of any song that you play, like in some way, shape, or form. Like there
Yeah.
are edits that are totally like left field or right field that are like super cool that you have to drop when you have the opportunity. But
Right.
like for me, my as crazy as it would be to say, I play probably more edits than I do of originals, but every one of my edits are not like obnoxious, punch you in the face, kind of like way
Right.
off to the like random. I try to play stuff that holds the integrity of the original song, but gives it like a 2021 feel or a 2020 feel, or at that time 2017
Right.
feel. And it's funny that you say I have to look at my computer to see if I can pick up that mix. I'll send that to you if I
Seriously,
can
man,
figure
because
out.
I still don't have a great version of that, man. I still don't, and I'm telling you, it was years that I was looking for something like that, and you were the one that spun it, man. So that was freaking awesome. Now,
I'll send it to you. I'll send you a
I
bunch.
appreciate that, man. Thank you, thank you. How was it that you landed the gig at Mobile Beat? How did that come about?
So it's kind of an interesting story, Mobile Beat. So I've attended the conference a number of times leading up to when I first got involved in 2015. And the show was kind of losing its steam. It had become like an older, outdated. kind of like, a great networking event, but a lot of people were not investing in the experience. And, I've always been someone that comes from the mindset, if you want great things, you have to kind of invest in them. So Ryan Berger, 2 years before he asked me to be involved, offered me a book deal and offered me a DVD deal and offered me all these like things to get involved with the learning conference and his ability to quote unquote put me on the map in that world, like the mobile beat world. And to be honest with you, in 2010, I popped onto the scene on the Jersey side, the East Coast side, at DJ Times Expo, and I gave a keynote that had standing room only. It was like 800 people at that time. It was like the busiest seminar of that entire week. And I was on it like Monday morning, 8 o'clock in the morning. I mean, like I packed this room. Nice. And I came on and I talked about branding and sales and what you need to do to like take your business to the next level. And I just was very, very transparent, very, very honest. After that, a lot of people that were in my local area kind of were using that using my own practices against me. So I'm like, you know what? I don't know. Like this industry is so twisted at times and some people are kind of cutthroat. So let me just bow out of the learning right now and let me just build my brand. At that time, I was working for Kanye West. I was working for all these like really big people at amazing places, working for Wedding Wire, working for like just massive, massive events, massive opportunities. And I'm like, yeah, I don't have time to deal with bullshit from people that are looking to just like take what I'm working so hard for without doing the work. And right. I kind of like got to a point where I was like, yeah, I'm good on this. So I was like, all right, I'm done speaking. And I like literally was getting asked to speak everywhere. And I'm like, yeah, I don't really, I never want to be like someone that like was the greatest thing that never was. I never wanted to be someone that like sat in the chair and was like, oh, I was this and I did this and this is the way to do it. Because I feel a lot of people that speak at learning at industry conferences in the DJ world have proven backgrounds, but they're not relevant in my world. The way like I was playing in the events I was doing, working in nightlife, working in radio, doing remixes, doing these like profile weddings where like people are talking about how much they make at weddings. And, not to be crazy, but like our events are very production rich. So like the dollars and cents didn't even make sense to me because we're on a whole nother level. And I'm saying that respectfully. Like I was trying to help people get to that level. Right. And I was just like, you know what, the effort is not worth my energy right now because I have a lot going on. You only have so much time in the day. My son was super young at the time. And I'm like, any free time I have, I should spend with my family and invest in my personal life a little bit. So I went on this like fat loss journey and I lost like 65 pounds and I was like, whatever. And then I got a call from Ryan. You got this, I have a book deal for you. I want to bring you back. I want you to speak. I want you to do a DVD deal. We can sell it. It'll be great. It'll make a ton of money for you. But I wasn't really like focused on the dollars and cents. That's not what was driving me. I was making enough money doing what I needed. I mean, not to say I didn't want more, but like I wasn't like seeking that. I was seeking opportunity. I was seeking about just putting myself in different places and getting uncomfortable so that I can creatively grow. That was like my thought process. And he's like, well, what do you think about the show? And I'm like, I think your show needs a lot of work. And I was very like honest. And long story short, 2 years later, I was at another smaller industry gathering called Think Tank. And Jeremy Breck from Sioux Falls, South Dakota came up to me. And he's a lighting designer who also works a lot with Chauvet. And he was like, I have an opportunity that we've talked about and we want to extend to you and we want you to really think about it before you say no. And I was like, what's that? And he's like, we're looking to save mobile beat. We're looking to create this show. We're looking to update it. We're looking to take it to a whole nother level. And I understand that you would be on board with that. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good thing for the industry. Like education is awesome for people. Like anything that can help us all push the bar forward is like what I'm all about. So we're in Indianapolis, as a matter of fact, and we're walking around and he's like, so I want to ask you if you would consider being the onstage DJ for the show. We've never done a DJ. I don't think anyone else is going to be able to handle it. And we want to put you up in front of all the DJs at Moby. And I'm like, huh. And then they're like, oh, by the way, who is your favorite? Who's like someone that influences you? And I'm like, well, right now, one of my biggest influences in like things I've done is, that's Alive. I would say like AM, obviously, and a bunch of different people. And, and I was like, Jazzy Jeff. And he's like, all right, I want you to not say no, but we're going to try to get Jazzy Jeff to do a party with you for all the DJs that year. And I'm like, what? Like, it doesn't really make sense. And I'm like,
blew you away.
Yeah. So long story short, it didn't happen. But in place of Jazzy Jeff, we got Red Foo and from LMFAO. And he's another LA boy, right? So like, we're like, all right. So I'm like, all right. And then they're like, all right, well, you can do this. And then we're going to have you be the entertainment director so you can like help us with kind of like consulting on the experience, because we want to make it better. We want to make it different. We want to like freshen it up with Jason Jones and Bill Herman, two incredible MC kind of like speakers and coaches and all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, all right. So the four of us, Jeremy, Jason, and Bill, came up with this like plan. And then we executed the plan by working with Jake Feldman, who was Ryan's business partner, and Ryan involved on kind of like the high level stuff.
Right.
And I got involved with it that way. The first year went off, like the numbers at the end of the first year, they had something like 3 times the amount of reservations. They always do like a promo at the end of the show, like sign up for next year and you get like a promo.
Yeah.
They did that and they had 3 times the amount of people signing up for next year. And he's like, what people were asking for is more Jason Jani. So I was like, cool. I'm like, well, let me think about it. This would be year 2. Let me think about it. And whatever, long story short, year 2, we were able to do the party with Jazzy Jeff and Sir Mix-a-Lot from Seattle. And then, and myself. And we had, it was just a really, really cool kind of like experience. And then year 2 became year 3, became year 4, became year 5.
Yeah.
And at the end of year 5, I decided it was like time to come up. I came up with the idea of holding a DJ contest to basically find the next person to kind of like take my spot. And not that I wasn't willing to do the work, but it's a lot of work and my time is really like kind of spread super thin. So I'm like, you know what? It's time to pass baton. Let's have a contest. We did have a contest. We had 4 really talented DJs end up to the finals. And then
3 of my good buddies were finalists, Nate, Aaron, and Henry. Great guys, very talented.
All good guys. And then like, you know, we interviewed them all and like talked to everyone. And then like the team at Mobile Beat decided who they wanted. I gave them my opinion. Then they had their own opinion and they ended up choosing their own opinion. And then I was supposed to sign back up as the entertainment director, but I just wasn't seeing eye to eye with, you know, the way things kind of go a little bit. There was decisions being made that technically I was going to have to live with that I didn't really like. And I felt like I kind of got burnt a little bit the last year on a number of different things. And I just didn't, you know, no ill will, no bad blood, no bad intention. And I felt like it kind of hit me from the side the wrong way. So I decided when it was time to move on, it was time for me to like totally move on. And if I do come back and when I do come back, maybe I'll do the party, that was part of the deal of me coming back to do the party with whatever artist, maybe do a Q&A with someone, but to basically like step aside and let the show kind of move its new direction. And then it just recently was acquired by another company. So now the show's going to be different anyway. So now I don't really have any conversations with anyone about the show at this point, but
well, you definitely kept it rolling, brother, because I mean, I will say this, as you were saying that people were saying that they wanted more of you. One of the main reasons that I kept signing up was because of you, because of the music that you were spinning. And, you know, I was there for your last speech when you went up on stage and you did your talk. That was really cool. And of course, all the different elements that Mobile Beat has to bring to the table, you know, with all the different speakers and stuff. And it's a very great event. So let's backtrack a little bit.
Really quick too, really quick, just so you know, like just my entertainment side, we ended up growing the opportunity of what we did. And like my company and like Jeff and Jarrett, like 2 of my like really close homies, and a number of other people took on like media coverage for the overall show. We were producing all the content for the show, which was like a lot of work. And we did all the bumpers in and out of all the seminars. I mean, we did a soundtrack. We had Tony T from Drop House doing all the, who's another SCE family member. He was doing all the voiceovers. I mean, like when I say we were in it, like it was probably like 300 hours of work before we even got to the show invested. I mean, it was crazy what we were doing,
Wild. You know? Well, that's something that I wanted to talk about. I wanted to backtrack a little bit because you are the owner and creator of SC Entertainment Group, Event Group, pardon me, out there. And I have to say that, like, when you talk about your events being over the top and your production elements, it is really sick. I mean, because, like, I can only wish that I get to that point because what you guys put together is something freaking amazing. How did you come about putting that event group together? When was that you decided, you know what, this is the direction I want to go in? And then how did you get to your first really high profile event?
That's a good question. I mean, I've been a DJ for a long time. I've done this for about 20 years now. And when in about 1990, I graduated like with an associate's degree in 1998. So like in the time before 1998, I was working. I didn't really like feel the vibe. I tried to like stay in the nightlife world, and that's where I worked on the craft primarily. As I started to get older, I got my bachelor's. I was working on my master's degree, and I was working full time in corporate America. I was still working in the clubs, but I was getting a lot of opportunities to do other events too. And I had a radio show on Sirius. I had a lot of different things happening, and I was doing a lot of remixes on Crooklyn Clan and Your Remix and all these different platforms that are like, some of them are still around, but a lot of them are gone. And the mobile event world spun back into my world because all these opportunities for these like kind of one-off private parties or like fashion events started coming my way, which led to other events, which all kind of came from nightlife, but then moved over to like social or the private event side. And as I started to do more events, I started to realize there was an opportunity. So I started in 1998, I started Sound Connection Entertainment. That's where the SCE and SCE event group comes from. And I started this company. We did a bunch of events. I was booked quite often, and a lot of it was smaller stuff. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with it, but I did what everyone else does. I was doing a communion, I would do a wedding, I was doing sweet 16s and proms and quinceañeras. I was doing whatever I possibly like could get my hands on is what I was doing. Holiday parties and whatever. And it started to grow. I started to onboard a bunch of people, and I started to do more advanced production way back in the early 2000s. And I was like talking about like, I had a set of 42-inch plasma Pioneer monitors that cost me like $5,000 each. I was taking my turntables to events, and I was using track spots because I know that they were like bulletproof, and that's what we're using in a lot of the clubs. They were like, they always work. Like you never had to worry about them going out. So I was like flying truss over me, putting like 4 or 6 track spots on, and I had like 2 screens. And in my area, no one else was doing that. Everyone was doing like the Macarena and the electric slide at their events. And here I am trying to make like private events, like club events. And, over time I started to onboard people, and I ended up getting burnt. And this is not going to be a theme, but there's a kind of a theme that kind of happens. So I knew I had to like make some adjustments, and I found another company out of New York that was local to me. And this is like 2004. And I went over to them. I had a mutual friend that introduced me to the people. I like respected them. I knew of them. They were super busy. And I went up, I ended up lining up with them, and then I just started subcontracting for them. And then eventually I was like, well, why am I going to run my own company and incur all these extra spots? Like I'm making so much more money over here. I have my company, but like, I'm just going to whatever. And I ended up kind of becoming like an informal partner of this company. I was one of the collaborative partners of this company. And I worked there for probably about 4 years to bring me about 2008. And over the time there, I learned a lot about the business. I learned a lot about people. And in 2008, I was working in the club, working in radio, doing all these different things. I was, still had a corporate job. I was working 2 full-time and a half jobs everywhere. I was in engineering. Wow. I worked in engineering. I was a manager of engineering team. We managed over $100 million of capital for AT&T and invested it for them. I had 16 people that worked for me during the day. And then I was like Clark Kent at night. I'm like smashing clubs and playing weddings. And I like never slept. And I would go to the gym and I was like, whatever, I'm insane. And so I decided in 2008, there were some things that happened with the private entertainment company I partnered with that didn't really wasn't really in line with like my foundation, my ethics, my morals. So I notified them that I wanted to kind of like do my own thing. I finished out all my obligations. I did it the right way. And then I started SCE, and I went from like rolling in opportunity to basically like, holy shit, like how am I going to work now? Right. Cause I had to like almost like start over.
Right.
And from 2008 to really 2009 was like a really painful year for me. And my son at that time was firstborn. And I was kind of like lost in a lot of sauce. I was just like not sure if I was coming or going. I didn't know like how I was going to survive. I literally know what it's like to eat like peanut butter and jelly and like figure out like how much money do I have to pay my mortgage and to make sure we have enough money for baby food, right? Like literally that was the life at one point. And it kind of grew from there. I doubled down on like my work and my hustle, and I kind of like I burned the midnight oil. Every night I would come home and work on my website, work on networking, work on whatever I could to get my brand out there. And slowly but surely, like my company started to elevate a little bit. In 2009, I started getting some traction because of like my club experience, the different people I knew. And now people started seeing me doing things from a different kind of like perspective. And one of my first kind of like larger production celebrity events happened to be with David Tutera, who's like a celebrity wedding planner. And it was for a television show that he was recording called My Fair Wedding. And at that time I was vlogging and I was putting things on MySpace and YouTube. And people were like, what the hell are you doing? You're taking people to your party? Like, who wants to see that shit? Like, no one cares.
Right.
But honestly, that's the reason how I was able to open up the doors that led to like the foundation growing SCE. And, within 2 years, my phone was ringing from, I worked for people like Guns N' Roses and Kanye West. And like, from there, it was like, and once that traction hit, it was like hard to stop the ball, because now I had the ability to survive and I had the capital to invest in marketing. And then I also was able to, because I was a little bit older, I was a little bit more in line with like what I wanted out of people and the business and all that kind of stuff. When people would approach me for work, I kind of knew which questions to ask, and I was able to figure out at a very high level like who they were, and then I came up with the process to basically onboard them to the company. And slowly but surely, like methodically, one by one, I started to grow SCE from 2 people to, I think at our highest right before COVID, we were a little bit over 50 people.
Wow. That's awesome.
We do about 2,000 events a year. So literally from zero to like that level. And then insane. The production has just followed me as you do more things. And, like I always try to inspire my couples, my clients, my people to dream bigger, to expect more, to never settle. And like when people see something, they want it. And, like by God's grace and by a ton of hard work and effort, like the world started to open up for me, like one opportunity after the other. And because like we were consistently delivering, it just allowed more opportunities to open up. And then cool. Here we are today.
That's awesome, man. That's an awesome story. Now, you have, like you mentioned, high profile celebrities, Guns N' Roses, you've spent with Cardi B, Kanye West. And there's a video which I really enjoy, which is you with Martha Stewart. And Martha Stewart got the headphones on and you got her scratching and stuff. I freaking love that. What would you say was the wildest celebrity event that you've done that you just said, wow, I can't believe this just all happened?
So I think my biggest profile event was, now it'll be 2 years ago. I had the opportunity of traveling to the Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles, and I went as the team DJ. Mr. Lurie, the owner of the team, is a client of mine. We've done like parties and events for him for a long time, not just like holiday parties, but I've personally done their holiday parties. I've done like their team initiative events where I played for 30,000 people that were taking part in an autism walk or run or bike ride. I've done a lot of different things, but I got the call when I was at the gym, and from a person that got me involved with the team that I met 10 years before that, who I'm so incredibly thankful for. I'll be forever thankful for her. And I got the call. I ended up going to the Super Bowl as the team DJ. And I was hired to play the either division championship party or the Super Bowl championship party. Wow. So it was like the team's party that night. And for anyone that doesn't know, when the Super Bowl comes to your town or your city or your area, it's like an influx of economy, like in a very short time, but an ungodly amount of volume of people, traffic, dollars and cents. Like they literally, the NFL comes in and basically like takes over the city and basically like makes it just, there's things going on everywhere. Right. There's pre-parties and parties lined up that whole week and big events, and not just for the teams, although the teams are wrapped into a lot of them. There's a lot of one-offs, a lot of the brands that are there, a lot of the people that can't get into the team parties. And, you know, I went out, I flew on the team's plane. I got to stay with the family members of the team. How cool is that? And got to go to the game. And then at halftime, right after the halftime show with Justin Timberlake, I brought Jeff with me from SC. I always travel with somebody. I brought Jeff with me. And then I played a party with Cardi B and Diplo and I. Diplo played for like an hour and 45 minutes. Cardi B did like 20 minutes, and I played for like 6.5 hours, I think, that night. It was crazy. And I played for, I think there was like 5,000 people in the room at one point. Pink and Kelly Clarkson and all the players and their family members and like media and just, I mean, like decision makers, like just amazing. Wow. And it's one event that I did that, you know, that I still to this day felt like I was underwater in, because it was just like way beyond my ability. But it was one event that I am so proud that I was able to be part of, and one that I'll never, ever forget. I mean, it'll always be like the first line on my DJ resume, you know?
Oh, man. That's huge, man. Yeah, not many DJs can say that. I mean, there's a lot of talented DJs out there, but very few have had that type of privilege, man. And congratulations, man. Your hard work has definitely paid off. Yeah, so let's take another step back a little bit. You briefly mentioned that you do remixes. How did you get started with doing that? What was your first keyboard or synthesizer that you started working with for those DJs that may want to get into that?
Yeah, so I mean, like I started, I think like a lot of people do. And when I first started doing edits, I used to create edits underneath the name The Blend Brothers with a guy named Jeff, who was like my old best friend and one of my friends for a long time. And we just created a lot of edits. Over the span of about 4 years, we did about 1,500 edits in total. I mean, like we did a massive amount of quantity. And essentially I did that work between like 2004 and 2008 would be like the time frame for creativity. When I first started getting into doing edits, that's like when the mashup craze was really big. AM was like, you know, on like the trajectory that he went on. And there was just a lot of opportunity for the party DJ. It wasn't so much about like house records anymore, just hip hop. It was more about like these crazy mashups and fun everything. So that's where I, you know, invest a lot of my energy. And we actually used to edit on a PC, not even a Mac. And I used to edit in Sony. That's what Sony Acid is the software platform that we used to edit. And that's kind of like where I got my, again, very loose understanding for how things work. And now, I mean, like I'm always working on projects. As a matter of fact, like before I picked up with you, let me see if I could show you this. I was working on a project with CL from my SCE team. Hold on, this is not the right thing. From my SCE team, and we're working on a Moomba twerky edit of My Girl, which is pretty cool. So I'm always like creating something. I always got something like in the hopper. I stopped doing edits in 2008 when I started to realize like there could be legal ramifications to releasing content without like
Right.
the rights, and people were charging money for it. Technically, that's not illegal, and there was a lot of legal pressure on some of these websites, like there is right now.
Oh yeah.
And I just decided I had way too much to lose, so I kind of like stopped releasing my edits. I still worked in platforms, but my focus was on building my business up until about, I don't know, maybe like 2014 is when I started releasing my content again, publicly, because like the world had changed, all that stuff had kind of subsided, and
Yeah.
things started to get a little bit better. And I lined up with a DMS like shortly thereafter that, and like the rest has kind of been history
Yeah.
for how that's all played out. But yeah, I mean, like I have a lot of different pieces of equipment. Believe it or not, like I'm a much better. I'm not a trained musician, and I'm much better at creating edits when I can like see it and draw it out. I'm more visual than I am in terms of like playing ability. So I draw a lot of stuff, and I'm very like granular with details. So like I use Ableton, and some of my tracks are like super colorful and crazy because I look at things in color,
Right.
and I use a lot of tools with it. But my primary resource for remixing now is just Ableton, or like a set of decks and like some of the mixers that are out now.
Right.
I do
Right.
have like drum machines and keyboards and all that kind of stuff, but I really like to spend my time, and I focus my time on like platforms like Ableton and the digital plugins and the digital accessories needed to like create insane content, because now you could pretty much do anything with just a computer,
Yeah.
as opposed to having all the stuff everywhere.
Exactly. Now, when I first got started in producing, this was back in early 2000s. I was doing some remixes. I was working on Spanish radio, and I was using a Cakewalk Home Studio and a boatload of modules, man. It's like I have an old picture there of a bunch of modules all over the place, big ass Mackie mix board, all kinds of crazy stuff. I used to go crazy with that, and now it's like you say, you got a laptop, just put in Ableton or freaking Logic, and get a mini keyboard, and you're sitting good to go, man.
I tell you, like some of the edits that like a lot of DJs support and I get a lot of love from, like, some of my favorite edits I've done were done on like a plane while I was flying from the East Coast to the West Coast. Like,
Right.
in just like an hour or two, I literally was able to frame out a track, put it together, line it up, and make it good. And then I master it after I get home. But
Yeah.
it's crazy. I'm always working on content, and I just started releasing. Like I do like a monthly pack to DMS, and I
Hmm.
just started releasing it to to whoever wants it. Essentially, if they just sign up to my newsletter and support my YouTube page, like I'm just giving out my edits to whoever supports me at this point.
Sweet. Sweet. Now, well, you definitely come up with some great stuff, and direct music service is DMS. And when you said that you started getting affiliated with them, how long ago?
So it's like 5 years ago at this point, maybe 6 years ago. So we're at like 2015, 2006, probably 2016, I would say, is like when I first like officially got into their grain. And I'm like technically a content creator. I'm also like um, visual, I forget what video content creator. I don't know. They gave me like some, for the
You,
group.
dude, I'm telling you, man, your company is freaking amazing because of all the DJs that I follow and stuff. Your creative is by far the top of the line. I mean, your guys, which I used to see running around over there at Mobile Beat, just and it was crazy how we would be, it was like 4 days. The last day, you guys would do this video, and you would just edit stuff, just like as though you had a massive editing truck outside, like the NFL or something. You guys would put these edits together, and your creative team is freaking awesome, man, and definitely deserve kudos because what you guys do out there is something incredible. So let's talk about a little bit now about DJ Collective. How did you get involved with that? What is the DJ Collective? What it's all about for those that don't know?
So the DJ Collective is an experiential kind of like meetup for DJs. It's more of like an exclusive meetup for DJs. So it's limited into the amount of participants. It's a project that was kind of created after a conversation that took place with two of my friends in the industry, Joe Bunn and Brian Bonacisi. where we were just trying to think of ways to help push the industry forward. If if organizations like Mobile Beat or DJ Times weren't going to do it, who is going to do it? And I'm like, well, with all of our reach and all the people we know, like we can just let's just see if we have legs to kind of the idea. So we started this kind of like annual meetup. We each invited a couple people that we knew, and the first one took place in Austin in an Airbnb with like 8 of us or 12 of us. The next year we brought it to Tampa and we had 35 of us. And then the third year we went to Scottsdale, Arizona, and we had 120 of us.
Wow.
Last year we missed out because of COVID. We
Right.
had to postpone. We were supposed to go to Asheville, North Carolina. And then recently we just announced that we're going to bring it back to Scottsdale because the rules in Arizona are a little bit more lenient in comparison to some of the other states. So this year we're going to move it back to back to Scottsdale, and we have to make some adjustments based on how we were originally intending to have this learning experience kind of go. But the format of the event is the thought behind the event is to create an experience for DJs to go and attend that's going to allow them the opportunity to learn, to experience, and then to build. And it doesn't matter who you are, what you do, whether you're a club DJ, a radio DJ, a producer DJ, you own a business, or you work for a business. We have a track for you. And the
That's cool.
days are loaded with content, and it's all varied content. And there's different tracks for different people that are attending. And then there's focuses on media and sales and the things that you would expect in a learning conference. But then there's also focuses on scratching and
That's cool.
production and how to create a transition and big thinking and just like life and wellness and all these different like somewhat controversial topics.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a couple of parties, and it's really come to be something that I'm proud of. And this year we just announced that we'll be headed back to Scottsdale. We sold out of our attendance in a
Nice.
day and a half. I mean, it was just crazy. And we also do it at an investment point that's almost 5 times what most of the other DJ conferences
Yeah.
charge. And it's not to monetize it because we're not like making money on it. We're essentially investing in the experience. We
Mm-hmm.
created gifting, and we brought in big kind of like talent to share the experience with us. And
That's cool.
a lot of the people that have attended it have built relationships and been booked at other places and just really done amazing things. So
That's cool, man. That's cool. You're definitely a hardworking man. So,
gotta stay busy. Gotta stay busy. That's
that's
it.
good, man. That's good. Who are? Did you ever have any mentors when you first got started, or people that inspired you back in the day?
Well, I think like you know a lot of like who inspires. I would say like back in the day, I always looked up to like AM. I always looked up to Jazz and Jeff. I mean, I think they are, they have been and they are really, really influential people in the culture of
Mm-hmm.
DJing. As my network has grown and I've been able to meet a lot more people in a lot different places. Like my you know I feel like there's inspiration from a lot of different people now. Like I get inspired by watching some of the young bucks coming up, and I
Mm-hmm.
get inspired by watching some of the old people stay relevant, and everywhere in between. I love seeing like how the technology and all the advancements in technology
Yeah.
have allowed people like Buck Rogers to take like finger drumming and like remixing on the fly to like the next level. I look
Yeah.
at, and these are all like friends of mine, like that's the crazy part. It's like, you know, I feel that over the years I've built some amazing relationships with people that I respect and admire outside of my like New Jersey world. But
Right. Right.
then I look at my company and I find a lot of inspiration from the people that work alongside me every day. The people that share the same flag as me for a company.
That's wild.
And I get super inspired by the people that hire myself or SCE as a whole. for their events. And no matter what the events are, it's like everyone has a story, everyone knows someone, everyone's been through something. And it's like, I feel like in order to survive in this craft for a while, you have to be a student of the craft and you have to be a student of culture,
Yeah.
and you have to be always open to adapt. I know like the person I was 10 years ago is so much different than the person I am now. And a lot of people might take things, you know, you look at a picture or look at a post and be like, hey, that dude's a dick. Like he thinks he's this or that. Like they don't understand like how you worked so hard for that. You know what
Right.
I mean? And like the hundreds of hours that you invested into like materialize the opportunity. They just see the one thing, or like, whether it's a house or a car, a pair of sneakers or a watch or like all that stuff up until COVID meant a lot to me because like I was looking to I was satisfying my desires with things, right? And I
Mm.
think COVID had this whole COVID scenario and the pandemic shutting down business and
Yeah.
truly humbling everyone
Yeah.
has really like brought things back to like the core of like who I really am and what really powers me and like who inspires me, why they inspire me, and what my purpose is here on this planet. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And whether it's my girlfriend or my kids or whether it's my the people that I'm working for, or the people I'm working with. It's like, or the people I just see coming up from afar that I don't have respect. I don't have, I don't have respect. I don't have the relationships with, but I just see them doing good things. It's like, I love the good success story. I don't want to see the industry, fall down
Yeah.
or be hurt. I think there's a lot of negativity in the entertainment industry, and I've always been a positive person, and I always want to try to push positivity out into the world, however I possibly can.
Well, you definitely do it with your talent and the way you express yourself. You were definitely a no nonsense guy. That's for sure. So, right now with COVID, did you find yourself kind of like having to reinvent yourself? Because obviously, for us as DJs and owning our companies and stuff, we had to shut everything down. How have you been handling it? What has been the best success during COVID?
Um, we've been impacted about 1,500 events at this point, like that have postponed or canceled.
Hmm.
It's probably much, much more than that at this point because so many things had not even come in since last March. It's been about a year at this point
Hmm.
of
Hmm.
recording this. You know, thousands of events, millions of dollars gone, and
Yeah.
like they will relocate to other times, but like that just pushes out other opportunity from coming into the fold. So it's like a, it's like a interesting kind of situation because you want to help everyone, but
Right.
now like your business is now caught in the middle of this. What the hell is going on in the world today?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, like I can tell you, like the COVID and the pandemic as a whole has taught me a lot about people and culture. It's taught me a lot about things that I've maybe wanted to do, and it's allowed me the ability to tackle them, like to prioritize what I thought I wanted to do versus what I actually needed to do,
Hmm.
and prioritize my time in a different way. And it's allowed me to conquer some projects and things that I never would have been able to get done before this. So
Right.
I'm proud of that, being able to do a lot of that stuff. But it's definitely interesting for sure. I mean, I spend a lot of time now, not just keeping my company above water or trying to keep my company above water, but dealing with issues and crisis management and
Yeah.
postponements and cancellations and office stuff and efficiency. That's where I've like really hunkered my time and energy down. I went through COVID and a divorce at the same time,
Oh
and
wow, that's
to
tough.
go through two really catastrophic life events simultaneously, it's so interesting on a number of different reasons. And I don't really ever talk about like my personal life by any means publicly, but like it really put me into like a headspace where like, there's been times when I've been down and out. The guy who's always been on top is like down and out because,
Yeah.
I was sitting on top of a mountain looking at the world around me, so proud of what I had worked a lifetime to create. And then without anything in my control, like it basically was shut off
Yeah.
and not able to function. And, not just for myself, but, at the time of closing, I had about 50 people that worked for my business. So like, just an ungodly amount of like work had been moved around and people had been, dealing with things. And, now it's like survival and also like adaptation. So
Yeah.
learning how to live stream properly, learning how to edit differently, learning how to just stay busy and focused and doing things to creatively push forward. Because if you notice, like every time there was a struggle or an obstacle in my path, or I got burnt in some way, shape, or form, like something really positive came out of it if you just keep working through it. So that same mindset kind of circles back to the world we're in right now, and that's why, like I'm doing whatever I can to stay not only positive, but to stay focused on creating and trying to inspire my team, other people, and even myself to just keep going forward and not stop. Because eventually it will all go away. It's just who knows how long it's going to be until
Yeah. Yeah.
everyone can safely operate in whatever circumstance that
Yeah,
is.
it's definitely very, very stressing. I mean, for me, I was like, what the heck am I going to do? Obviously, I didn't have the number of events you had, but it was enough to where it was going to impact, my entire family. And it was funny because literally I was getting to a point where I was actually already working on bringing a staff on employees. So I was getting to a higher level, but boom, it stopped. So we had to, reevaluate the whole situation. And now we're pretty much kind of like starting from scratch as well. You also have your YouTube page. Tell us a little bit about that and what you got going on there.
Yeah, so I in the fourth quarter of last year, I decided to kind of like focus on something that I'm personally passionate about, and that's like learning and education, inspiration, and business, and all that kind of stuff. So I started my YouTube channel, Jason Jani Media, I think is what it's called on YouTube. But um, that that channel is really focused on sharing info, advice, perspective, tips to help people grow faster, navigate through these crazy times we're all in, and to improve their business and their performance. That's something that I've always kind of like loved, even though I did get burned on it in the past. I feel like now's a time where it makes sense to put more positive vibe out into the world. And I'm also in a much different place now. So,
Right.
candidly, I started the channel not really knowing what I wanted to do with it and exactly where I want to go with it. And I think I'm still figuring it out. I've just got up a little bit over like, I think 30 or 35 videos at the time of recording this. And, I'm recording almost every other day. I'm doing things that are relevant in my world. And I think a lot of people have or will experience at different times of their life. So I'm trying to pay it forward so that I have some type of like legacy in terms of content available for people to consume when I decide it's maybe time to move on. I also I did get in a learning project in the past with Phil from Digital DJ Tips, another awesome resource, another awesome person. And he has, I had a master class and it taught me a lot about like our industry for people that I thought were at a different level than they actually were. And like listening to the struggles of what these business owners were kind of going through,
Mm-hmm.
it really like brought some things to light. And to be honest with you, when I started DJing, no one helped me. Everyone kept all their information close to their chest. No one would share. No
Yep.
one would go out of their way to help you or ever. You had to figure it out on your own, and
Yeah.
you had to make those mistakes, and you had to grow from them, or you had to give up. And I'm sharing content that I think is useful and relevant for different people in different places of their journey as a DJ,
Right.
and I'm doing it to help people, and that's really like my I guess my drive to do it, and I'm inspired to do it. I love doing it. I'm getting a lot of like interesting comments and messages from people, even though like I don't have a ton of viewers, which also is like pretty interesting. I mean, I can put more people in a club than I can get on a
Right.
YouTube channel, like in a normal world, but like, and that's like on a random Friday night in a city that I don't live in or
Right.
a state that I don't live in, like crazy. I could play in Las Vegas and put more people that are subscribed to my channel, but
Right.
it's you know what, it is what it is. And like I've accomplished a lot as a DJ, from
Yeah.
marquee events to production to learning to trade shows to speaking on stage to no one taught me, no one helped me, no one taught me how to mix. I had to someone gave me like loose instruction, who I would want to give a hug to if I could find him. And I tell you, like, no one helped me ever outside of that one person when I was 18 years old that like literally took me under his wing for 3 sessions. And you know, I think the world and I think the industry is a lot better than that. And I want to put the content out there, not to blast people, not to rip people apart, but just to like pay it forward and to share and to hopefully inspire people to do that when they have the opportunity of doing it, because that's the only way the culture as a whole is going to grow, is by
Exactly.
putting yourself out there and sharing.
Exactly. Well, that's cool, brother. Well, listen, man, we have come to the end of this little brief talk that you and I had, man, and I want to thank you very much, man. Your story is simply amazing. Continue your hard work, dude. You definitely deserve everything that you got and what's coming to you, because you are definitely one dedicated individual. So I really appreciate you taking the time today with me.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. I definitely love kicking it with you. Anytime in the future you want to get back on and we'll record another one, let's put it in the calendar and make it happen.
You got it, brother. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. And of course, you that's watching, if you like this episode, please hit that like button. And as always, subscribe, click the bell so that you get notified when I have another amazing talent. Jason Jani, brother. God bless. Stay safe. We'll see you on the flip side, man. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.